Welcome to Earth's Mightiest Weirdos. How are we doing tonight, everybody? Mark Valentine, fresh off of This Diz Live, talking about all kinds of things. Disney World. How are you, Mark?
It was a busy night tonight. Mousepiration joined us. It was fun. But there's only two like resident weirdos tonight. And then there were two.
We have a pending third weirdo in Marky Mark. Hopefully he's able to get his situation in a spot where he's able to join us. He'll join us if he can. But joining us, both returning weirdos, are Alex Klein and Sarah, who are fresh off of, I don't think it was 4 hours. I think you were just a few minutes short of a 4-hour Eternals review for Comics and Cinema podcast. Is that correct, Alex?
That is, yeah. We were unfortunately, I think, 10 minutes short, maybe even 5 from that 4-hour mark. So just got something to shoot for next time.
At that point, you should have just kept going. You would have at least dragged it out, which might not have been a stranger to this film. Sarah, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Better than I was 15 minutes ago.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. When Marky Mark told us he might not be able to make it, I knew just who to call, and you answered that call 2 weeks ahead of Ghostbusters coming out. So I appreciate that.
Yes, of course.
All right. Well, he just got out of hockey practice, and he needs to go to bed. So we're going to get right into the world according to Jax. Hey, buddy.
Hi, Dad.
How was hockey practice today?
It was good.
Yeah? You learning how to skate?
Yeah.
What did you see over the weekend?
Eternal.
By the way, if you have not seen Eternals, we are talking Eternal spoilers tonight. I did not say that, but we are talking Eternal spoilers. I don't think he's going to get into too much, but what did you think of Eternal?
I liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was it a little bit too slow for you?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Who was your favorite character?
Fastos.
Why did you like Fastos?
Because I like to invent things, and he invented all these different things.
He invents all kinds of cool stuff, right? He invents the steam engine way before it's needed or ready. Yeah, that's pretty cool. He fixes his kid's bike. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? What did you think of the deviants?
I didn't like how one of them turned into kind of a human.
A little creepy, huh?
Yeah.
Pennywise the clown.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, Dad.
All right. That is the world according to Jax.
Fantastic review.
I love it.
Well, before we get into too much Eternals talk, again, spoiler alert. But before we do that, late last night, Alex, we're going to go to you on this. We got not a trailer. I thought we were going to get a trailer today because of this, but we got our first official poster for Spider-Man No Way Home, which has at least 4 hints at the Sinister Six. But Alex, what do you make of this poster? Anything interesting?
Yeah, I mean, you say there might be 4 hints in there, but I kind of see 5. I don't know if you look maybe at the bottom left corner there. I think I see Mephisto's face. You've got a couple eyes, a nose, a little smile there with the words. I think they're letting a lot more than they should have in this poster.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you follow the trailer, who's Doctor Strange? He's Mephisto.
There we go. Yeah, no, awesome poster. I love the minimalist quality of it. There's not a lot to see. They don't really reveal their faces, but love that little goblin in the back.
Yeah, the goblin in the back is my favorite part. Sandman, potentially, Electro, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin we only know are 100% for sure. But Sarah, what do you make of this poster? Are you excited about this movie?
Yeah, I like it. I've been neck deep in work all day, so I haven't been able to look at it. But now that I'm looking at it, yeah, I see all of the what are we saying the bottom left corner is? For real? Not
It looks like there's a face. No, it looks like there's a face, like a Mephisto face.
Okay. All right. I can get into that.
Yeah. Mark, 6 weeks to go. You're gonna see this one opening night, I'm sure.
I will. I'm gonna hold this up, and I'm just gonna say Mephisto enough with my TikTok microphone right here, and I've been saying it for 6 months. It's going to show up in a project that's eventually going to vindicate 98% of all my TikToks, which have gained me 1.3 million followers as the Marvel expert. But eventually, when he's finally in something, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to be completely vindicated. And all you people on your podcast that make fun of my TikTok are going to know that I was right all along, because Mephisto eventually showed up in the MCU. So in your face.
Save Ferris.
No sour grapes there, man. I'm sorry, but let me get again. We own our mistakes on this show. When we say that Professor X is coming to WandaVision and we whiff, we eat crow for the next 6 months.
Is that an Eternals reference?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I told you after the first episode of WandaVision, I told you he was not coming, but you
listen, I thought it was going to. I lost the bet, but I was pretty sure that we were basing it on the House of M, and they loosely based it on the House of M. Too loosely. I lost the bet, but I owned up to it. Listen, I hope it's Mephisto for the sake of all the TikTokers who've been calling for Mephisto since the Stork came out in WandaVision.
It was before the Stork. It was pre-Stork even, man. It was, man, I'm rewatching WandaVision. That show is so good. I love it. All right. Well, we've wasted enough time. Let's get into it. We have two wonderful guests to help us break down the newest in Marvel world in the MCU. So we have decided here on Earth's Mightiest Weirdos that the Monday after a new release, whether it is a film or a Disney Plus series, you will be getting the review every single Monday night. Excuse me. I need to step away for just a minute, Mark, if you could take this.
Sure. So what we've decided collectively as a group is come heck or high water, the Monday after we have a theatrical release, you can count on Earth's Mightiest Weirdos to be breaking that down for better or worse. We've been tinkering with some of these different release schedules. We all got we did a Thursday night drop for Black Widow, and then what we realized was we weren't really that far ahead of the curve, but we figure while it's still in the discussion and it's still in the spotlight, we want to be here that first weekend for everybody because it's fresh on our minds. And if you want to talk, and that's what tonight really was about, is talking about these characters. If you have any questions, that's why we bring the experts on to break down stuff from, how comic book accurate is this. But we want to make this a habit of every Monday you can count on Earth's Mightiest Weirdos after the theatrical release that we will be here talking spoilers and talking that drop. Back to you, Bryan.
Thank you so much. Sorry, my daughter was having a ball in the living room. Yes, so and the worst is if you haven't seen Eternals, you are more than welcome to leave and catch this as a podcast once it's come out. So Brian Ferguson, who was on with us and will be on with us far more regularly as we go ahead, he says he can't watch. He hasn't seen the movie yet. Piano Rob, same thing. Just life's kind of gotten in the way. I just question your Marvel fandom a little bit. No, I'm completely kidding. One of our resident weirdos, Kevin, is in the movie for the first time as we speak. So think life gets in the way, but we want to be able to talk about it when we can. So let's get into it. Alex, what were your overall thoughts of Marvel Studios' Eternals?
I loved this movie. This movie was so great. We talked a little bit about this earlier. I got seen it 3 times now, and even after that third showing, I still want to go see it again. And I just keep thinking about it. There's so many intricate pieces to it that pop up later where I'm like, oh, that's right. That connects to that. So just very pleasing from that regard. I think Marvel pulled off something really special here in terms of creating a movie that isn't necessarily a Marvel movie that we've seen before, but at the same time is so epically Marvel in every sense of the word. And especially too with the fact that they did the kind of DC route of introducing a superhero team first before getting solo movies, so to speak. But they successfully pulled off a 10-person superhero group that, in my opinion, at least, everyone got a good little bit to shine. And it's hard to do that these days. So I loved it.
Super, super hard to do that. And they did do a good job with that. No question. I would agree with that there. Sarah, I know you have very positive things to say about this film, just like Alex does.
I do. I loved it. Alex and I both have 3 viewings under our belts, like he said. And we're both big Chloe Zhao fans, Terrence Malick fans. This feels like the most art housey Marvel film we've gotten. And I am part of the niche that falls into, I'm a fan of both of those things, superheroes and art house films. And so this is just right up my alley. And I think it's going to be a turning point in the MCU for a lot of reasons. So I'm all on board.
Mark, I saw your ears perk up when she said art house films. That's kind of up your alley too, right?
Yeah, what Chloe Zhao did was pretty remarkable with this movie. The way that she was able to merge really like this art form that I don't think we've seen in the MCU, that she has an eye for just these jaw-dropping visuals, but even the way that this film was shot. I mean, like I went on the rant about Dune. I was the lone holdout with Dune, that I'm a gigantic fan of the reimagining of Dune. I felt very much like this was in the same vein of what they're doing with Marvel films, that they shot it with that cinematic perspective of, they wanted to give you this very sweeping view of the landscape and the world, that we're so used to tight shots with these superhero movies, and everything is very up close and personal. This movie still had that, don't get me wrong, but they pulled back the camera in a way that I don't think they've ever really done on this scale for that long. That the cinematography was just gorgeous. Like I want to get this out and like right up front too, that Bryan will tell you, and I'm not gonna rehash it and get on my soapbox, but I was pretty hot. Bryan will tell you that after my viewing of the film, I soapboxed in our Earth's Mightiest Weirdos chat that
Feel it.
I was mad, at even more mad at the critic score after I saw the movie than I was prior to seeing it. I was pretty hot before I even saw it, because we all know the film was review bombed. I don't want to hash all that stuff out because it's the absolute worst that the internet has to offer. But the film was they laid siege to the film because of content that people did not agree with, because of geopolitical social issues. Laying that aside, I got very upset and frustrated after I saw the film that there are going to be people that will steer clear of the film, thinking that those reviews are legitimate. Is the film perfect? No, it's not. But I love this film. If I have one thing that I'm sad about, is that I only did get a chance to see it once. I'm going to see it at least one more time in theaters because it's so epic. It needs to be seen on a big screen. But it's doing something that Marvel has never done. I don't fully understand where it fits in, but that has me intrigued, and that we'll discuss that later on. I don't know where we're going yet, but I said in my very brief Twitter statement, I don't know how it connects, but I'm along for the ride, and I am all in for whatever future Eternals projects we have. I love it.
Same.
Frankie says he does have some questions. Frankie, by all means, go ahead and put those questions in the comments. We will try to answer them as best we can. We've got a resident comic book Eternals fans on that bottom row down there. Alex, how good are the Eternals comic books? Completely honest.
Well, okay, completely honest, I would say they're not very good, but there are certain sections of them that are really good. So, like overall, if someone was like, "Oh, I want to read some comics," I probably would never recommend reading an Eternals comic over all of the other comics out there. But if they were asking, like, "Oh, I'd love to read some Eternals comics," I could find you some really good ones. Like John Romita and Neil Gaiman's run is really good, as is the current Kieran Gillen run with Esad Ribic. That one's really good. But then like Kirby's run, super cool, very ahead of its time, but at the same time, and I think Sarah had mentioned this too, it's kind of a little bit of a snooze fest. So some of them are just, they're grasping at things that I think the zeitgeist at the time couldn't really comprehend. And so we're getting to this point now where we can bring those things back and talk about them, and it makes a lot more sense now. And so you think about it and go, wow, Jack Kirby was a genius way back when, but I don't think people appreciated it the way they could be now. But it's interesting too, you're seeing the same reaction now as you saw to the Eternals comics back in the day. Very divisive. Some people really love it, some people not as big of fans, and that's kind of how the comics were too. None of them have lasted more than like 19 issues. They usually get canceled, and then it's like decades before they're revamped again.
Sarah, my most familiarity with the Eternals comic book characters are when they make the crossover to the Avengers. For example, Cersei is, I think, currently the leader of the Avengers, if I remember correctly. So we're going to be setting up the same thing with this film as we are in the comic books, correct? Where we're going to be taking these characters and putting them in other franchises. We may not ever even get an Eternals 2. We might, or we might not. It kind of seems ready-made to continue maybe in the Guardians films or something like that.
Yeah, they definitely alluded to it in that dinner scene. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Instead of going sequentially through the film, especially because it's hard to, unless you're Sarah, take notes while you go and see a film. Don't worry, she tucked herself in the back corner where she wasn't disturbing anybody else. But breaking down characters, if we're going to talk characters, there's no better way to do it than in the most character-driven film that Marvel Studios has produced at this point. For the most part, we do have our rankings of the Eternals characters 1 through 10. When we talk about a character, I would love to see where they fit into that character ranking of 10, if you're able to do so. I know Alex went through the painstaking process to put 1 through 10 on everybody. Sarah was kind of a last-minute add she may or may not know, although we do know number 1, and she will let us know when we get there. But let's start with the leader of the Eternals, the Prime Eternal. And is it just too much to ask to, if we're going to do a pre-movie scroll, put it in yellow font, put stars behind it, and just let it go right behind it? I mean, if you're going to give me a scroll, just do that. But the Prime Eternal is Ajak, played by Salma Hayek. She was, again, spoiler alert, we are talking Marvel Studios Eternals. She was not alive during any of the Prime timeline in this film. Alex, what did you make of Ajak? Where does she rank on your list of 10? I don't think we're going to see her again.
So this is an interesting point, because she actually came out and confirmed that she signed a contract with Marvel for multiple films. So
Interesting.
We may have to get into that around, how Eternals come back at some point in the show. But she's towards the bottom of my list, and it's kind of a bit because of that. We don't see her too much, and the scenes that she's in, some of them are really good, but some of them just didn't really do it for me in that same vein. So again, I like, it was very hard for me to make this list. Even the person at the bottom of the list, I still really like. So it was very hard for me to do this, but she is my number 9.
Her very first scene in Babylon, where she has that the first out of body experience talking to Arishem, the very first time that happens, is incredible. I really like the visuals of that. For me, she is 10 out of 10 on the list. Mark Valentine, 10 for you as well.
This was the one. Remember, I said my hot take might surprise some of you, was that Ajak, and one of the real stars that you would say the star power of this film, Richard Madden, Angelina Jolie, and Salma Hayek. Like they've got some pedigree to them. They have some, they're, people know them. There's some name recognition, and she's decidedly now. Alex said this. This is hard for me, because even my 10, I do love Ajak, but she did not do as much for me as emotionally as some of the other characters, and that's how she was drawn. She's the stoic leader. She's unemotional. She doesn't pull emotion into the decision. And so she wasn't emotionally fleshed out as much as some of the other characters. So for that reason, only that reason, that's why she's 10. It's not that I disliked her portrayal. I would love to see her again, knowing what the Eternals are and that they are manufactured. It's likely that we could see some of them again. Hint, hint. Richard Madden, please come back. We need Icarus back. I need them, like, Arishem, please build them again. Like, we have the technology. We can do it.
So it just dawned on me that I actually didn't give my overall thoughts of this film. I am in a weird place right now where I'm the most quote unquote negative about this film of the group of the 4 of us. I thought it was good. There was some really cool visuals. There's some really good storytelling. I struggled with the pace of this film, and I really struggled with the deviants. I thought the deviants were completely wasted and inconsequential, and they're the return of the White Walkers from Game of Thrones. They ended up having no meaning on the story whatsoever. I didn't love that there was no real reason. I think you could have brought them back because of the snap. Hulk snap brought everything back, something like that. Instead, they were frozen in ice, global warming. That was it. The other thing that I also struggle with is at some point, I want it explained better. And we see it again in the Encanto trailer that we got before this film, of you have the quote unquote, the normal one, and they have to become the most powerful of them all. Cersei kind of has to go through that exact same timeline in this film. At some point, I just don't, it's not good enough for me that the people of Earth are special. That Ajak has gone through many, many times of bringing a celestial about, and and for some reason the people of Earth are special. The entire humans are flawed for whatever, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about Druid specifically. But those are some of the hangups that I have with this film. At some point, humans just aren't that special.
You don't think Ajax caught Earth's Mightiest Weirdos a couple times during that last bit, and she was like, you know what? I think this place isn't so bad. I think I'm going to save this place.
We saved the Earth, Bryan.
That's all I can think of.
Anyway, that's kind of, we'll talk more about it as we go character by character. Again, we'll get to Cersei very, very next, but I want to get Sarah's thoughts on Ajax, kind of where she falls on that list. Kind of where do you want to see her again?
Ajax, yeah, I mean, I will take Selma Hayek all day, every day, in any capacity. She's my number 6. Ajax is number 6. And I noticed as you were talking, Bryan,
that I talked with my hands. I apologize.
No, it's okay. My list goes like from like my 1 through 10. They get progressively more selfish. I felt like Ajax was like right in the middle there. Not ethically speaking, but like I feel like there's more redeeming qualities about her than some of the, and I like all of them. I just like some of them less. So she's number 6.
I just wish we got more of her explaining, and I actually really like how they timed the flashback of how Icarus murdered her. I thought that was really interesting. I just wish we had gotten more of her explaining what makes this planet so different from all the others, because it's just the storyline that I've gotten too many times. That's kind of my thoughts back there. But let's move on to the new meets. Go ahead.
Well, Bryan, but it's elements like that I thought made this movie so fascinating, is that dialogue of humanity's position and place in the universe and us being special, but also the connectedness that we have to the universe, or the, like everything in that we are special, we are unique, but we also have these darker components to us that make us at times very tough to swallow. And it's hard to see that beauty amidst all of the darkness of the narrative. And again, I'm a history buff, so like you kind of got like humanity's greatest hits of like evil deeds. Like we see Hiroshima, we see like the fall of Tenochtitlan. We don't necessarily see
the fall of what?
Of Tenochtitlan, which is like
I thought it was Tenochtitlan.
No.
Oh.
So
right.
yeah. Sorry.
That's my gringo, I guess.
Yeah, right. Sorry. But we see you distracted me now. We don't necessarily see the best that humankind has to offer. And I think that was done purposefully by the writer director to kind of to put that out there as a larger narrative, that it's more than just these superheroes, because they're not your typical men and women in capes. They're just as flawed as we are, and they're wrestling throughout the course of the movie with their place in this story of, they understand that humanity was meant to serve this purpose of feed the larger universe, and the machine of these billions of lives will serve to create other solar systems. But then they, throughout time and spending time on Earth, discover that there is a lot of redeeming qualities here. And to extinguish this is to do a wrong, a great wrong. I liked that. That to me was what was so compelling about this movie, was it was deep. It had a lot more than good versus evil and the deviants are the bad guys. The deviants were, you're right, the deviants were a giant red herring. They were not the bad guy in this film. And we were built up to think that the deviants were going to be the big bad, and like lo and behold, they were not.
Don't get me wrong. I'm glad we got one of the main Eternals being the main villain of the film. I actually really liked that. What my problem was is I really liked when Makari and Phastos were beating the crap out of him, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Crow shows up. Like, we have to all of a sudden handle this guy too.
Yeah.
And it every time they showed up on screen, whether it was in the rainforest or whether it was on the beach, it dragged for me.
Well, Crow didn't know what the hell was happening either in that scene. He kind of did like a triple take and was like, what do I do? Like, who do I kill? Like, where do I go? And, you know, he just decided it's like, I got to throw down with Thena just because I guess I got to do something here.
Alex, did we know that
Valid.
Bill Skarsgård was playing Crow before the movie came out?
I don't think they ever
I did
announced
not.
anything about it. That was like a well-kept secret.
That's pretty cool. Like, honestly, that you can pull something like that off without, again, had they let that out, you would have built up the deviants even more. Maybe that was the whole point of not letting that out. I really don't know. But spoiler alert, the deviants were not the main villain of this movie. But those that do see the best in people, and Sarah, we'll start with you, is Cersei. She was an interesting character. There was a lot to like about her. I think she makes a really good couple with Jon Snow and Dane Whitman. I think there's a lot to like about Cersei, but something just wasn't adding up for me, which is why I put her middle of the pack. I think I have her at 6.
Mm-hmm. For me, she's number 3. My top 3 are pretty much all tied. So she really is. She's as far towards the top as you can get for me because I think, you know, in the future, looking back, this is going to feel a lot like a Cersei origin story. So after the third rewatch, I realized I was liking her more and more. And I think mainly it's just because there's so much to digest about this movie, and so much to pay attention to. So I got to hone in on her journey a little bit more with each showing. And she overcome, you know, she comes into her power and she overcomes, not just herself as her own worst enemy, but there's some parts where Icarus tries to gaslight her and make her think that she is not worthy of this, to lead the Eternals. And
He timed it well too, because like publicly he's like, she was chosen as the leader or whatever, but he was absolutely manipulating her in the shadows.
Yeah, exactly. I liked her more and more. She's towards the top for me.
Alex, how did Cersei land with you?
Yeah, I was tossing in between. She's my number 4, so I was tossing between her being number 3 or number 4. But I thought she was fantastic as well. It was really cool that the movie was essentially centered on an Asian female lead. I thought that was a great decision. And she also is the kind of the mouth of the Eternals, or their conscience in a sense. So she's the one that's kind of pushing them to love humanity. And so I love that. She got a lot of really cool scenes. There's one we'll get to, right before she speaks with Arishem. And, the camera kind of pans out and it's a very cool zoom in shot of her hand just in the rocks that, I don't know. She just had a lot of really special scenes and I loved how much she cared about everyone. And it was interesting. I didn't realize this before, but Marc, you made a good point. I think, a lot of the scenes in these movies about humanity are all the really bad parts, like Hiroshima and massacre here, massacre there. And so I almost wonder if the whole point of it is that we're not meant to know why we're worth saving. And I think there's an interesting piece there in regards to religion, of these gods that have come to earth to judge us, and they've judged that they want to save us. And we're like, why? We're always so cynical about that. Oh, we've got all these things. We've got TikTok. Why would they want to save us? But I don't think we're meant to know that. I think it's just like, you should be grateful that they've chosen Earth to be something that's saved. And it's kind of like that in the comics, but she just embodies that, of like, she sees things, she's been down there. And Sarah and I mentioned that as well in the episode, but like, she's like one of the first lines in the movie. And the first thing that she says is, it's beautiful, isn't it? When she looks at the Earth. She's never even been there. And her first comment is like, this place is beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's like, she has no memory of anything. So she just inherently loves Earth. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
When you talk about kind of, we don't even know why we're worth saving, isn't what Arishem says at the very, very end, which the visual of him over London is my favorite shot of the whole film.
Oh my god,
That's
yeah.
really, really cool when you could see the 6 eyes through the clouds. That shot's really cool. But I think he says, I'm going to look through your memories and then make a judgment on whether this place is actually worth saving. But then he takes them, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But Mark, how did Cersei land with you?
So Gemma Chan just did, like, she ate the scene work up. I mean, like, she was amazing. She didn't even need dialogue in order to just make me connect with what she was doing emotionally. I'm so glad that we got her back. A lot of people don't know this, or they wouldn't recognize this, but she's back again. Like, this is her second stint in the MCU. She was Minerva in Captain Marvel. So I'm so glad that she's coming back in a different capacity. But like, she's somewhat of a Disney darling lately too, because not only was she in Captain Marvel, but she was in Raya and the Last Dragon. But I mean, she's really solid. She's starting to amass some really nice credits to her name. Whether it's Crazy Rich Asians, a lot of people know her from Humans, Fantastic Beasts. She's got a lot of pedigree there, and I'm really excited the work that she's doing. I like the way that we see humanity through her eyes, that you can see some of the Eternals who skew negative towards humanity. And, you know, Richard Madden, Icarus is all about the mission. He's all about the mission. And there is no, no pun intended, there's no deviating from the mission itself. That the mission was to protect humanity, to cultivate humankind long enough to birth this celestial. Like, we're not to get involved. We're not to get emotionally invested. I love the way that Cersei sees the beauty in the planet, like you just said, almost immediately. And she paints us in strokes that makes us even think it's like, on your worst day, that you look at the world and humanity through Cersei's eyes and you're like, she's got a point. Like, yeah, TikTok's not great, but we're pretty amazing, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, she was great. I think I'm excited about the future of the character of Cersei and kind of where that's going to go. I will take more of Gemma Chan in anything that you will provide me. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say she's number 1 for me too, by the way.
Is she one? Wow.
Nice. Okay, nice.
Yeah, she's my number 1.
Nice.
All right. Well, Maya leads us right into the next one. She says Icarus was giving Homelander and Peacemaker vibes for sure. Maya picked up on that very early on. It's a sense of duty for Icarus. He was looped in on it. Now, while we talk about Icarus, I would like to put a question out there. When do you think that Ajax decided on Cersei becoming the Prime Eternal? Was it when she saw the turn in Icarus and him being all about the mission, or do you think it was actually determined before that? Because I think it was probably determined even before that.
I'd agree with that.
Because she had come to this realization that this planet was worth saving, and she knew that Cersei more than anybody would believe that. So I think even well before Icarus's turn against her, I think she had decided that Cersei would be the Prime Eternal. But Alex
has it right. Icarus is a Donkey Kong. So that's what
Icarus is a terrorist.
Yeah.
Alex, Icarus, did you see the turn coming? Did you ever anticipate Richard Madden being the villain of this film?
I did not. It was awesome. It was a perfect turn. It made so much sense. And he's my number 10.
I was going to say, he ranks you at the bottom of the list of 10, I would assume.
That is correct. And that is specifically because of what he did. But beyond that, I find him to be a fascinating character. I think he embodies Superman in that sense, because he's the most powerful on the team. But in a sense, he, like you were saying, there's no deviation. He is the perfect Eternal, where he does not change. He can't change. And in that sense, that's his perfection. And that's his ultimate flaw, that he's going to do. Maybe he'll do that on the next world too. We have no idea. But I thought he was fantastic. I loved some of those scenes. Anytime that he was shooting beams out of his eyes, it almost felt like I don't know, like we got a bigger treat with this than Superman in a sense. Because I always felt like in the Zack Snyder movies, he was always holding back just a little bit. Like he was, and Icarus never felt like he was doing that. He was always just, especially in the Amazon, that one scene where he just keeps firing his blasts to get away from that thing. And it's just like, give me more of those blasts. But he was super cool and also terrible.
Sarah, I would assume you said it was ranked 1 to 10 on selfishness. That means Icarus has to come in on 10.
Well, but see, I'm reevaluating that now because I don't think he was being selfish. I think he was following, like Kingo says, he was following his heart.
Good
He's
soldiers
just,
follow orders.
that's, yeah, he is the ultimate soldier. And I think to answer your question about when Ajax chose Cersei over Icarus, I made a note when I was taking notes in the third viewing. He says to Ajax, "I won't let my feelings for Cersei get in the way of the mission." And she tells him, "You have to, you have to live a life." Um, I I think he is just such a zealot in that regard that it's really hard for me to I don't know. It's hard for me to rank him any higher just because I value I value people's ability to grow and change their minds. And he is so uh uh
He didn't do that, that's for sure.
yeah, no. Well, I mean,
He
did
did at
he
the
though
very
at the
end.
end? I see. I don't. That's why I love this movie. There aren't real answers really to so many questions that we have.
Do we think he's like gone forever? I mean, we all know he
I
could be
don't think so.
recreated, but if you would have told me anybody from this film was going to appear in another one, it would be Richard Madden prior to seeing this film. Mark, what did you make of Icarus?
So I might catch some flack for this, and I apologize to the people in the comment who think me to be a monster. But so I chose my ranking for on these criteria alone. Richard Madden accomplished his goal of making us hate Icarus. He did a great job in his performance that we were up and down with him. A good villain, when a good villain accomplishes, when an actor accomplishes their goal, they make you hate that person, utterly hate that person. And we did for a good time. We really did hate Icarus. But then having that ability and that capacity, then at the end, he could have stopped Cersei. He could have. And he doesn't. And he does exactly what he says he's not going to do, which he lets Cersei get in the way of the mission and his love and affection for him. The thing that I found so interesting about the way that the character was written, and the comment that says Chloe Zhao was interviewed and she said that Zack Snyder's Man of Steel was was inspiration for developing Icarus in the film. To me, as I watched the film, Icarus was very much Man of Steel, but there was a lot of Zod, General Zod in there as well. That zealotry of this is all I've known, and the way that we are presented with Zod in that movie, that Zod, there is only the mission, there is only Krypton, that he doesn't look at human life the way that Clark does. Listen, you're thinking of, and he tries to explain it to Clark in that movie. You're framing this the wrong way. You're looking at these people as your equal, and they're not. And I think that's. I don't think Icarus is a bad guy. It's like Wreck-It Ralph. I'm not a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. He's
Think so?
not. He's not evil. He's a zealot. There's the mission, and when he fails his mission, he knows nothing else other than I have to self annihilate and fly into the sun because I have failed. I have failed. I killed this celestial and I failed my mission. I came up short what I was supposed to do. I was here for thousands of years and ultimately I failed in what I was set out to do and I have to kill myself because of it. Richard Madden did his job. He was excellent. We need more of him. I'm hoping that Icarus comes back. If only that, dude, Richard Madden could do anything and I'll watch it. The Bodyguard, Bryan, you said you've never seen The Bodyguard on Netflix.
Oh,
Homie, it's so good. You need to go tonight and start Bodyguard on Netflix. But I mean, even as Rob Stark, he was really and he was an up and comer in Game of Thrones. Fascinating. He's just so good on screen.
I've seen it. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to add one more thing. The thing that made me decide to not totally detest him was at the end when he says I'm sorry, and Richard Madden just portraying heartbreak like that, and you're not sure if he's like what part he's sad about, what part he's sorry about. Is he sorry for helping kill his god, his religion, his gods, or is he sorry about hurting Cersei? I mean, it's Richard Madden is amazing. That
Don't you think
part
it's
where he
all though?
lays.
Don't you think it's all of those things that it's
I
just
think yes, and
it's a
that's what's
perfect
so
stew.
sad.
Yeah, it's a perfect stew of I've effed up everything. Like I've hurt the woman that I love more than anything in the world. I've let down my deity. I've failed in my mission. I'm supposed to be the leader and I failed at that. It was
So
just everything.
she would have forgiven him. She forgave Kingo and Sprite
Yeah.
without really, like, Kingo gets off easy. And I get it. We'll talk more about Kingo in a little bit, but I saw it argued that he was physically incapable of hurting Cersei because of the Unimind. No, because when he lands and he starts to laser beam her, we see the flashbacks of what he's remembering of their love and their life together. He just physically couldn't do it emotionally. He could have done it physically. I don't think it had anything to do with the Unimind.
Dude, it was just it was one of the best performances of the entire film. Richard Madden all day, every day. And I know it's unpopular that he's like my number 4, but it's not the character in as much as it's the character, and that performance was like, whoa, this is a comic book movie. That performance was like mind-blowing good.
Yeah, he was my number 7. When we talk star power, though, the biggest star power we got in this film was Angelina Jolie's character of Thena. And Mark, we'll actually start with you. Where does Thena rank on your list, and what did you make of this character?
Thena was right in the middle for me. She was like smack dab in the middle, probably like a 6 or a 7. I'm not going to say much about Angelina Jolie, with the exception of saying I am glad that they did not overuse her and rely on her star power as a crutch. I was most concerned about her being overly used and using Angelina Jolie's star power to really push the film forward, and that was not the case. She got her scene work in. She did a really nice job, but they did not overuse her, and it wasn't nauseating to the point of where it's like, okay, we have the A-list celebrity and we're gonna really milk her for all we can. She faded for very much of this film. She faded very much into the background and was a supporting character. And it was a really nice ensemble piece in that I was worried that she and Selma Hayek were going to be like just vaulted to the front and take up way too much time from a lot of the up and comers. And that was not the case. The up and comers got more time than the A-list celebrity.
She was 8 for me, only because we didn't get that much from her. I don't think any other actor could have portrayed the Mad Weary problem that she had, the PTSD and her memories kind of coming back. Very, very interesting the way she portrayed that. Honestly, if you liked this film okay the first time, see it a second time, because the Mad Weary sat with me a lot better the second time through, because I was able to kind of see it coming. The first time I missed the first couple references and it didn't really land with me. The second time through, I actually liked it a lot better. I think she did a good job. I don't know. The way she killed Crow was visually really cool. That scene of her changing her weapons constantly in that cave was visually stunning. I really liked that, but we just didn't get enough of her. I do love that they called her Athena and they were able to drop the A. It seems like she's coming back, which is a surprise to me. But Sarah, what did you make of Thena?
Thena, I'm a big fan of people that are struggling to overcome their own demons. Like I root for them, and I was rooting for her. She is my number 4. The way that Angelina Jolie, and I was not a big Angelina fan before this film, but the way that she was able to portray a warrior goddess with such a vulnerable like fragility, it blew me away. She was fantastic.
How about you, Alex?
Yeah, Sarah literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, you get a warrior goddess with fragility like that is just incredible. She's my number 2. And because not only do we get you'll see when we get to the number one in terms of my favorite action sequences, but when you look at the best screen grabs, if you were to take a screenshot, she steals the show with all of those because she's got the cool Iron Man Captain America fight with Icarus when the beams are going, and then she also gets that beautiful dive into the mist when she's fighting Crow, and then also her beautiful air flip when she's fighting back in Mesopotamia. But yeah, the whole dealing with PTSD I thought was just insane in the best way. Like, you know, I was confused about the Mad Weary again that first showing, but like you said, on that second showing, I got emotional every single time she was on screen. Especially that scene in I had to write it down, Tenochtitlan. That's probably one of the most emotional scenes in the movie for me, when they're all kind of realizing what's going on. And so, you know, her just talking about how badly she wants to remember and not forget. But at the same time, you're dealing with the same thing of, like, you know, people who come back from a tour or wherever that is, and they deal with that PTSD of they don't know when it's going to show up, but some loud noise outside triggers them. And the fact that it's the warrior goddess and someone who could kill you just by looking at you is really cool and really fascinating that they chose that for her.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say she's such a poser. The thing.
She had cooler poses. I'll say that.
She has way cooler poses than Black Widow, but
Yelena would have seen her and been like, I've got nothing to say to you.
She had all the cool Marvel poses in this film. I agree that, like, the screen grabs and the screen captures from Thena were legendary.
Something that I'm just now putting together that I guess I hadn't thought of before was this is the first time Ajax kind of goes off script a little bit, where she should have sent Thena back to have her memory reset and everything, and she makes the decision not to. And I wonder if Icarus seemed okay with it at that point, but it's interesting. Like, I'm just now putting that together. But somebody that skyrocketed up my list of Eternals and how he treated Thena and the character and the man that he was Gilgamesh. I loved the character of Gilgamesh. He's my number 1B. Like, I've got to tie it first place. I'll put him in second for that reason. But I loved Gilgamesh. I loved his character. We see him with the kiss the cook and Gilgamesh, the baby suit. Just all of that was hilarious. I loved him, the power that he had. I did not know coming into this film that the Eternals were 5 warriors and 5 everybody else, but seeing their team of the 5 warriors and then the 5 that would come down after and kind of clean up the mess was really, really interesting. But just the power that he had, I'm really, really bummed that we lost him in this film as early as we did. Alex, how did Gilgamesh land with you?
Yeah, and that was actually an interview they did, an Eternals interview. I think I saw in a theater once. So it was five warriors and 5 thinkers, is I think what they call it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I loved him. I thought he was fantastic. He's my number 6, which, again, I mean, that's basically number 1. He, just like what you said, he was really funny, but that same thing, he felt like, again, the parent that's taking care of a child that came back from war and is struggling with their mental illness at this point. And it was just so beautiful. Again, on those multiple viewings of knowing those scenes were coming and hearing him say, like, we'll take that chance. Or, I mean, I lost it on the third showing. Even I lost it when he said, I'd do it again on any planet. And I was just like, dude. But then you juxtapose that with him looking back at that giant thing and just smacking it down and knocking it out. Also, when he knocked out Thena, that was awesome. So he got cool action scenes and he got some really heartfelt moments. So I thought he was amazing.
Anybody that likes Alfred Pennyworth is fine in my book. I couldn't believe all the DC references in this film.
Also, rip to that pie. That made me really sad.
That poor pie. Sarah, what did you make of Gilgamesh? Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
No, that's okay. He is right below. He's my number 5. And the way that he cared for and protected Thena, but was also this fearsome, powerful dude. You
don't have to be romantically involved with somebody to love them and take care of them, and that was one of the best parts of that relationship.
Yeah,
and I liked them, I think, almost as much as I liked Phastos and his husband. I mean, yeah, their relationship was entirely different. But the way that he loved her was so deep. Their connection was so deep. And yeah, he was just a badass.
We
Yeah,
also
I
feel
loved
like we've seen him before. He's definitely a variant of Wong. Mark, what did you make of Gilgamesh?
I mean, the two of you said exactly what I've been thinking of, his capacity to love and then just being like an utter badass at the same time. I really liked Don Lee. I really liked the some of the stuff that he said, and I just feel like really compelled. I want to share this. He said, and he was quoted when they asked him about the film and why he thought this film was so important. He said, "Listen, each of us have this unique superpower, but we are more powerful when we are together." It's a very important message, and that is about diversity. The actor explained, "We're showing that no matter what gender or race, we are stronger when we are together." And I just loved that. And when I read that, he was already my 2, and if I have to pick, like, he's gonna fall slightly behind Cersei for me, but I mean, he's really 1B, and I love that. And I thought it was cool because, so he's South Korean, and it was really neat because when presented with the opportunity, like, he admitted he jumped at the opportunity to reach this worldwide audience, and it's not often that we get to see this kind of representation in American cinema. I mean, I used to teach a class called History Through the Media, and one of the chapters that we did was the portrayal of cultural groups throughout the history of cinema. Let's just, like, say Cliff Notes version, like, Asian portrayal in cinema is horrific throughout the first 4 or 5 decades of film, like, horrific. So to see Don Lee understand the gravitas of this and this opportunity that, to come and cross over from South Korean film, star in this tentpole film for Marvel and understand what that opportunity meant. Same thing with, like, Gemma Chan. To realize for representation, this was massive. And I was, like, so happy to see that pay off. Like, the Eternals was like 83% of South Korea's box this last weekend, and it was like 14.5 million in total from South Korea. So it was massive. It was the second highest global take too, like, worldwide. So I love the fact that, like, we had this diversity in the film. Don Lee was cognizant of the diversity of the film. It was, like, at the forefront of this. And again, we're going to get into Fastos as well. Another aspect of the film that I absolutely I love that Chloe Zhao just, like, she embraced it and she did it in such a perfect way. But I love that that diversity was on full display and that a guy like Don Lee understood the moment. He understood the assignment, to speak of TikTok.
Oh,
Alex, I'm going to leave this one to you. Frankie asked, so does the DC universe exist as a comic book in the MCU, or are they heroes as well? This must be answered. I have my own thoughts. No,
I don't know
if Superman existed, Tony Stark would have called Superman at this point. They were simply comic book characters.
Correct. Yes, they clearly know who it is. So either that's because there's comics that exist, or it's because the Zack Snyder movies exist, or maybe the what is it, Richard Donner Superman movies exist. Whichever ones. It's some form of media exists, so they know what it is.
There's parts of the MCU that feel much better than our timeline, so I'm just going to say Zack Snyder's not out there in the MCU.
Oh, boo.
I got to take my shot when I can. Let's move on. Mark, you just talked about him, so go ahead and continue on with talking about that representation, and it came from our inventor man in Fastos.
Yeah, I love Fastos. Brian Tyree Henry. So the only thing I knew him from, like, he was Paperboy in Atlanta. So apparently he's a thespian too. He's one of my people that
he's Miles Morales' dad in Spider-Verse.
Yeah, but he was a stage performer, but he's no stranger to blockbuster films. Like, I think he was in Godzilla versus Kong, and I remember he had a smaller part in Joker. I don't remember him in a lot of other stuff, but I mean, most of it's Atlanta. What I liked about him, he was a really complex character. He's somewhat out of place in that, again, he's a thinker. He's the inventor of the group. For that reason, he was somewhat sidelined for a lot of the film for me. And like, in my heart, he's number one, but they didn't give him enough to do. And I felt really upset that it wasn't until, like, the very end that he got his due, when he's like, I wanted to clip your wings for a long time, to see the one that is, like, the most non-militant of all of, like, the Eternals is the one who has Icarus's number, and he grounds him, like, straight up grounds him and takes him out of commission. But the thing I really loved, and again, like we can get into the whole toxic and the review bombing. There was just a lot of people that were very uncomfortable with that representation of like non-traditional and gay families and gay couples in the MCU. And to that I say, listen, it's about time. Like whether art imitates life, and like I'm sorry, but like get over it. And if you're uncomfortable with that, like that's your issue. But like this is reality. I don't feel that if it's the MCU or if it's a Disney film or if it's any kind of film that we have to ignore that you have to ignore relationships and like to sound cliche, love is love. And I was very happy to see Marvel finally, after 20 something films, embrace something that probably should have come up much sooner. And it took Chloe Zhao to say, like, this is a facet that we're going to not be shy about anymore. And I applauded that decision. And quite frankly, you knew me, like, and I told, and again, we had this out in our chat. I said, for the people who continue to frame this movie, and despite its box office success around failure and this and that, there's an agenda there. And I will look at those kind of reviews and those critics with a side eye. Again, it's not a perfect film, but when you qualify this movie or you say this movie is challenged, to me, that is like a dog whistle. What's challenged about the movie? I know that I'm getting on my soapbox here a little bit and I'm going to step off, but bravo. I love the character. I love the representation in film. About time. Applause for them.
I will simply say Fastos is my number 3. I actually really like where they introduced him back into the film because I think it had the most weight to it at that moment in time. But I will simply say Fastos is my number 3. The soapbox is empty, and I yield my time to Sarah.
Thank you.
I echo and agree with everything that Marc said. I think it's about time and a big win for Marvel. There were, unfortunately, there were some groans around me in one of my viewings, which was a big bummer for me. But I think on the grand scale of things, the grand scheme of things, I think that's going to hopefully end up being a very small part of the negative reviews.
Sarah, were there similar groans around the sex scene? I'm just curious.
Nope,
I just want to know.
Sure weren't.
Okay.
Sure weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. But I love, one of the things that Alex and I talked about were all the different ways that love is expressed in this movie. And all the way, when Fastos and his husband kiss, there is no awkwardness on screen. It is what it is. Yes.
Maya says that I love that he wasn't super fit. Brian Tyree Henry actually talked about that, where he said, I had posters on my wall. I never thought somebody that looked like me, and he didn't mean race. He meant shape, was going to be featured in a film. He thought that was cool too. And that was something very cool.
Well, I mean, all of that. I love that everyone, no matter who you are, if you see this film, you are represented in some way on screen. Yep. And I love that.
I feel like I'm only represented by Icarus, who's kind of a D-hole. So that kind of sucks.
He's a Donkey Kong.
You get Dane Whitman.
I don't think
I do get Dane Whitman. I'll take it. Alex, how did Fastos go with you?
I loved him as well. He was my number 5. Everything. I don't have a single problem with him. Everything was so cool. All the things that he created. The fact that he was just. It is funny. Sarah and I had talked about this too. That he was essentially the doer. He's constantly he's in the lab. He's cooking some things up. He's got something cooking at all times. And it's usually something that's going to get ixnayed by them. Like, this is too far in advance. And so guess what happens when he finally gets to do that and causes Hiroshima? He becomes the procrastinator. And so now he doesn't want to do anything. He just wants to step back and relax. So I love
It's his
that.
kid's bike, yeah.
And I had said that same thing. If people are getting upset by his kiss, I hope they're getting upset by all the times Gemma Chan got to kiss all of those other guys, and then also by that sex scene, because it doesn't make sense. And I love the way that they framed that too, because it being the first one, they could have easily maybe made it, corny or pandering in a sense. But I love that, the music starts and the first thing we see is him with his son. And so it's like, okay, if you're not going to like this person, look how great of a father he is. And like, look how great of a family man he is. And I loved, Patrick had a comment here too, that he tells his husband everything. And his husband's the one who says, like, you should go. And it's just, there's such a cool connection between the three of them that made it such an interesting family dynamic. And again, 2 scenes that we get to see them in. So they really used the screen time well with what they got. And we'd mentioned this too. We get some groans here. It's honestly not surprising, but I'm hoping as time goes on, we see more and more of this and the groans get less and less, because at that point, it's every day. And I'd call out too that I know Marvel, I don't know necessarily if they were trying for this, but I've been reading the Marvel 10 Years book, and they've been trying to get a lot of diversity into their films since like 2010. And it seems like it wasn't lack of Marvel. It was that the people in New York did not want that because it would not translate well to toys, according to them, that people didn't want a black character for a toy or a female character for a toy. So they just moved away. So I'm glad to see that that's over and done. And we have now gotten an embarrassment of riches in this film.
I just think, again, what made it so good was that it was just not lingered on. It was just part of everyday life.
Natural.
And the fact that Cersei is the one character that has the biggest problem with telling everybody who she is, or telling anybody who she is. She couldn't tell Dane. She couldn't, like, Dane kind of put it all together with Sprite, and everything happening there. But I don't know, man. Like, it's just cool. The way that they all approached their humanity differently was really cool. Somebody who really wanted that humanity was Sprite. And I know we are over the hour mark. Stay with us. If you are listening to this on a podcast, you can come and go, but we want to make sure we give all these characters due justice, because I apologize, I do not know the actress's name that played Sprite.
Leah McHugh.
Thank you. She was fantastic. The moment was not too big for her whatsoever. She was able to act well among these powerhouses. I have her at 5, actually just above Cersei. I thought she was really, really interesting. And now she's human, which means she can age, and then they can maybe give her powers back. There's multiple ways in which this actress can stick around. Sarah, what did you make of Sprite?
Sprite, I
She's
I
low, it
don't.
sounds like.
She's a girl. I don't like Sprite in the comics, and I allowed that to color my opinion of her. I put her at number 9. I don't know. I can't relate. I can't relate to that level. She feels like one of the more selfish characters, like what I was saying. But I understand her desire to be human and, fall in love and feel normal. But yeah, she's my number 9. But
Fair.
Leah McHugh did do a great job.
Yeah, I said she was low. I mean, I knew she was a girl too, but I did say she was low. Mark.
She was right about midway for me, so she was number 6. Leah McHugh did a nice job. She's done mostly horror films, so this was like a real breakout role for her. Smart move. I mean, it makes a lot of sense with the way that they wrote that now she can age, because whenever the next Eternals comes out, it's going to be like awkward. Like, why doesn't she look the same if she can't age? They're going to give her powers back if they want to recast her and bring her back, which it would make perfect sense to do it. But she did a fine job with the role. It wasn't too big for her. I liked it. I mean, she was solid. There's not much I can say. I liked she's Tinkerbell. She's Tinkerbell. And that was perfect. That was the perfect analogy. And I thought that was very fitting. And I'll cheer for her when they bring her back. I thought she definitely earned her spot in a potential sequel. She kind of fell in the middle for me. I was somewhat ambivalent towards, I thought she just did a very fine job. That was about it.
Alex, did you let your comic love or lack thereof cloud your judgment here too?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I was never a fan of Sprite in the comics either, because for that same reason, he was always like the villain, sort of, because he was always angry for being so young. And so the fact that they switched it to being a female, I liked that already. I was like, okay, awesome, that's great. And then when I saw her not being a villain in the movie, I was like, oh, wow, she's actually pretty cool. She's at the bottom of my list as well, though. She's number 8 for me, and I think that just comes from that same thing. It's hard to explain what it is, but in terms of frustrating characters, she's probably more so for me, only because it's like, "Ugh, like, why are you going with Icarus? Why did you stab Gemma Chan in the back? But at the same time, you get why, and she does such a good job of conveying why she's doing this. I mean, that whole monologue she has about, these people showed me things I never even knew that I wanted. Why was I made this way? Like that conversation she has with Kingo is so good, because again, they could have easily made a joke there of what before she says anything, and she just says, "Why am I made this way?" And it's such a sad conversation to have, but at the same time, I thought all the other conversations were more interesting than hers. So it made sense. Again, that's why she's a little lower, but I thought she did great. And that final scene when she turns human, I think I got a tear in my eye as well when I was like, "Oh no, she can change." Oh wow! And then yes, makes total sense for her aging.
I don't that the one thing I didn't love about the end of the film is why Cersei even fell for the ruse of Ajax being there. I don't know why she didn't see that coming, because she knew Ajax was dead. I think she knew it was Sprite. I don't know how she just didn't expect what kind of came from it. That kind of took me out of it a little bit, but I think Sprite was cool. I think the powers that she has, I think if Leah McHugh can come back and age with the role, I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about her dad, or whoever he is, Kingo, and then his valet, whose name escapes me at the moment, but he was the best part of the movie for me. Kingo's my number 1. Yes, thank you. I loved Kingo. He's my number 1. I thought he was fantastic. Every single time he was on screen, he stole it for me. I thought he was great. Mark, go ahead. Kingo, what did you make of this guy?
So Camille Nanjiani
Yes, sorry. He's played by Camille Nanjiani.
has a soft spot in my heart because I stand for Silicon Valley. Dinesh, you're my homeboy. Always blue for Dinesh. I was excited when I saw he was cast because I just love the character of Dinesh in Silicon Valley. But he was funny. I mean, he was in some ways he and both Don Lee as Gilgamesh were the much needed comic relief at various points of the movie, along with Karun. They were the moments that you could laugh. And again, it was a really serious movie. It was a lot more heavy handed than some of the other Marvel films that we're accustomed to. But he allowed us to laugh. He provided for a lot of comic relief. Seeing him as a generational Bollywood actor was brilliant. And it was just,
My grandfather. That's my father, and this is me.
it's just a lot of fun. And he in some ways he was one of the worst of the Eternals because he just straight up like ghosted everybody. I mean, everyone's mad at Icarus, everyone's mad at Sprite. You should be really, really mad at Kingo because Homeboy was just like, peace, I'm out, guys. Like, we can't beat him, and I'm one of the stronger of us, and I'm out. Bye.
So Frankie asked, why wasn't Kingo in the final battle? I believe the exact line is not the exact line, but the line is, I kind of agree with Icarus, but I'm not willing to kill you all for it. So he just simply left.
Yeah.
And like I said, Cersei forgives him. Like, I think she would have forgiven Icarus at some point. Sarah, you kind of shook your head when I ranked Kingo as number 1.
Oh no, I didn't mean to do that.
Oh.
I meant, well, Kumail, or how do you say it? Is it Kumail?
Kumail. Yeah, Kumail.
Him feeling himself in that dance is one of my favorite things in the entire movie. It's hilarious. But he's my number 8. No, I'm sorry. 7, 8, 9, 10. He's my number 7. Because of the end. I feel like he's still a zealot, but he's a peaceful zealot. Because he still believes in the mission, but he's not willing to hurt his friends for it. And so, I mean, but again, he's not a villain either because he's following his heart. And so, I don't know. He was a little bit more vain than the others, and I wish he had stayed. I wish he'd fought for his family. He's the one that calls out Icarus and says, "You don't turn on your family," and then he ghosts him.
Yep.
So I'm like, man, I was rooting for his character, and
Well, he definitely wins the award if they were giving out awards for who went out and lived their best life. When Ajax was like, "Go and live your best life," he wins. He wins hands down.
Alex, what about you, Kingo? How did he land with you?
He is my number 3.
Yes,
so I loved Kingo, and I would say I don't know if we've seen that before, but I would almost equate that final scene as like he is the best example of what you should do if you don't agree with somebody else's political views or beliefs about their religion, because he says, I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to hurt you over my beliefs. And so the only correct route is to just leave. And so again, in any one of those situations in the real world, people would be like, why are you leaving? Why are you abandoning your family? Whatnot? But it's like, but at that point, you're putting your beliefs on them. And he's doing the exact opposite of that by just saying, hey, I don't want to. I'm going to step away. I get that, though, especially with the family piece. That's a great point. He shouldn't have abandoned them. But I just liked that whole message that you can believe in something and not be a zealot about it to other people. And not.
Dude, I love that. That's awesome.
So that I thought was fantastic.
Bravo.
His Bollywood scene, I maybe have danced to that like 4 times already, listening to the soundtrack. Everything about him is hilarious, too. Everything with his valet is great. I'm trying to think if there's any other great lines that he had.
He was friends with Thor, we learned, and Thor no longer will call him back. And he's got some sort of obsession with Captain America, because there's Captain America shields in the Bollywood number, and he's got Cap's shield from the first Avenger on his plane. Like, he's kind of the biggest fanboy of the group, it seems like.
My theory with that is that I think that because he would have been around at the time, I think he probably saw his USO videos when they came out. And he was like, this guy's a showman just like me, because he was probably making videos at the same time. So that's why he has that specific shield, is because he's like, that's from the USO videos. I want that.
I was watching him. I was living my childhood fantasies, like shooting laser beams from your fingers pointed as guns.
Oh, yeah.
I love when he tells his valet, just go home. And what am I supposed to do? Go home and watch TV? Like, the world's ending. Like, I love it. And he's the first one that introduced the entire my friends from college bit, because I thought that was hilarious every single time it came up on the screen. There is a new leader in the clubhouse that has replaced Timothy Chalamet from the #1 most punchable face, and that is Druid.
Dude, I want to so unfair though.
In the face so bad. Alex, Druid is number 8 on my list. I didn't like him. Again, I don't love the storyline of their flaws or what make them human. I've heard it a million times. Nothing with Druid worked for me much at all.
Dude, that Irish brogue didn't get you. Barry Keoghan's Irish brogue didn't.
I like his accent fine, but man, I want to punch him in the face more in this movie. It's that smirk that he has. He didn't have the smirk when he was in Dunkirk. That's the only other thing I've seen him in, I think. But Alex, what did you make of Druid?
I agree with you in regards to the punchability of his face. I actually talked about that. We talked about that on the episode. But now I say absolutely no offense to him, because after seeing him in this movie, I'm a fan. But this is coming from, I had seen him, his big thing that I saw him in after Dunkirk, I'd seen him in a fewer smaller films, but Killing of a Sacred Deer. And I won't spoil what his role was in that movie, but he was like the ultimate punchable face in that movie. And when I saw him in this movie, and they kind of lean into it in the comic books as well, that Druid is a villain. And he's always typically the guy that's the bad guy. And even the way that he's got it, and I believe his last name from our good friend from Ireland is Barry Keoghan, but he just looks like a villain. And then it turns out that he's actually not a villain. I loved that. I loved his relationship with the only other person we haven't talked about yet. I thought that was fantastic. But also, he was a really great example of. I said he's like an inverted Loki. Because Loki is so obsessed with controlling everybody and taking their freedom away because of his grandiose ideas, whereas he wants to take everyone's freedom away because he's trying to save them. And there's so many great arguments you can have within that. But it's like, look what he's created. I mean, he's kind of created this little like cult commune in the Amazon that's doing fine. And Kingo even calls out ignorance is bliss, but they're in bliss. So like, you know, what's so bad about that group? So there's a lot of really cool bits with him. He holds a lot of grudges though as well, and so there were some bits of it where I wasn't as big of a fan of him, like in that church scene. His acting was a little off, but the rest of it, like the scene in Central America was what sold me on him, because his tears and his upsetness at saying, I've been having to struggle with this for centuries, and it's like I could never comprehend that. We can't do that as humans, but wow. So yeah, I thought he was great.
Sarah, Druid.
Number 8. I thought he was, I mean, punchable face. I'm with Maya. It was a little hot. I kind of, the accent, and like he plays like this worn, tired, like just his line in the temple when he says like, I could have fixed this all in a heartbeat. Do you know what that does to a person over thousands of years? And I loved it. It's so, and he's very still with his acting. He's very still, but it's very powerful, and that takes a very talented actor.
Yeah.
I again, I let the comics color my opinion a little bit, which was not fair to him because he ended up being a decent dude. But yeah, he's still number 8 compared to everyone else.
Marc.
He fell at the bottom purely because this was very hard to do. I did enjoy him. Again, that moment that Sarah just said when he says, I could have fixed this all. It was nice because he was so small. For the other scenes, he was very soft spoken and he was very quiet, which is maybe another reason why he doesn't land on a lot of people's top of lists, because he wasn't as over the top. He didn't do as much with the dialogue. He was purposefully soft spoken. He was very introverted. He was kind of off to the side. He wasn't really a team player until the end, that he really comes into the fold and is, helping everyone solve this issue. But it was that moment where, again, he stood out for me and I said, this guy's good. Like, he's really good. He's playing his part well. And that's the thing. Everyone played their part to perfection. Even Sprite, they did exactly what they were tasked to do by the director. There's not a single person in this film that I would point to and say, I thought they were the weak spot of the film. If there was a weak spot, he would have been it. But what he was asked to do, he did exactly as he was, the dialogue that he was given, the direction that he was given, he was perfect. Perfect.
He also gets a sweet move with that shotgun where he does the flip over the deviant and then at the cult commune.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
Jumping back to Kingo before when he ends up under the deviant and he blows its brains out and then gets the blood all over him and he yells, "Did you get that on film?" Like,
yes, sir.
I loved it. Well, Sarah, we saved the best for last. Your number 1, I know for a fact, is Makari.
It is. I've loved Lauren Ridloff for a long time. I've been watching the Walking Dead for years, since it came out. And so Alex and I were talking about this yesterday, but there is something so genuine about her acting and so like earnest in her eyes. I think she is a phenomenal actress, and normalizing ASL in cinema is so huge, and I loved that they did it in like the first 2 minutes of the film. There was a line of dialogue that was ASL between Kingo and Makari, and I loved it. I want more of her. I feel like they didn't put a lot of her in this film, but I think there's so much room for her to continue to grow, especially with the Emerald Tablets, which is a fun Easter egg. But yeah, I love her.
She's number 4 on my list. She was fantastic. I just wish we'd have gotten more of her. Alex?
Yeah, she's my number 1 as well. She was my number 1 maybe from the minute that she came onto the screen. And yeah, when her and Kingo are talking in the beginning, I just was like, she grabs your attention the minute that you see her. In every scene that she's in, she just steals the screen. And I think that's why when you're missing her in the middle of the movie, it's very noticeable, because she gets your attention so quickly. But then she totally makes up for it in that end fight against Icarus, where she clearly You know, Kingo says it's Icarus, but it's like, look what these people are doing to Icarus. Like, they can keep up with him in a sense. And so she was great. I love, there's a specific scene, one of my favorites of hers, when Druid comes back at the end, and she just gives this world of storytelling in her eyes when she looks at him and runs up to him. And again, you know, no need for any kissing or anything like that. They just completely connect by putting their heads together. And it just was another really great example of another form of love, which again is like, there's no reason to even put a label on it. You know, they love each other. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just so amazing. And then the fact that, can't forget, like, they're a little team at the end. And I would love the Druid Thena Makari story of them traveling space for Eternals. Like, please give me all of that.
Mark?
I'm going to beg your forgiveness. I'll beg the forgiveness of the panel that she felt a 7. But please, because, and purely because she was just underrepresented in this film, she was missing for a vast majority of it. But when she was on screen, just so genuine. It was just so fun to watch. I don't know how much of like the PR stuff that you've been watching on talk shows, and like she's been doing the circuit to promote the film. Just like, oh my God, I love it so much. Just watching Lauren Ridloff on, you know, on all of these talk shows has just been so incredible. And again, it speaks to what the film I think does really well, which is representation, and doing representation just so well. And Sarah, you said this before, no matter who you are, there's a character in this film that you see, that like you see yourself in, whether it's, you know, physically, emotionally, that there is a character in this film that you can identify with. And that's what I love about the Eternals. We haven't seen a movie that has 10, let's not forget there's 10 characters. Like we started talking about Spider-Man earlier, right? I remember when Spider-Man 3 came out with Tobey Maguire, how hyped I was that like we had all those characters and villains. Big mistake. Like, they made so many errors. There were too many characters and none of them were done well. We had 10 superheroes in an origin story, mind you, that we're leaving and we're talking about them, and we could probably still continue to talk, but we've been talking about them for an hour and 23 minutes, and we're trying to like get in and out and do quick hits, but they were drawn so well. They were represented so well. To me, Makari she's the crown jewel of what makes this film so incredible, is that it pulls together people from all walks of life and all abilities and makes them superheroes. And for that, I love it. I love it.
You say there was 10 superheroes. There was actually 12. And like 12
okay, come on. I didn't count the
No. It was just my segue moment. Alex, tell us about who Dane Whitman is and who the Black Knight is as succinctly as you can. Because Kit Harington in this role, I thought he was fantastic. He was only in the beginning, in the middle, and then he broke up on the FaceTime call in the middle of the film. But go ahead, Mark.
Alex, before you go, I just want to say, as a Game of Thrones reference, Kit Harington will be taking the black in the next movie. I don't know if he's going to be defending the wall, but he'll be taking the black.
I hope you guys don't lose listeners for this. I have not seen Game of Thrones, so I was not as affected by those scenes in the film. But I watched the first episode. Maybe I'll get to it one day. But yeah, so Dane Whitman, he's the Black Knight in the comics, and they've been giving him a little more prominent role, I would say, over the last few years. So they're definitely building him for something. But and funny, I'll pass it to Sarah too, because I know she knows quite a bit about Black Knight as well. But he's got the ebony blade. There's that gorgeous photo. And interesting enough, you see there on his chest, that's the family crest that we see on his ring and on the top of the box in the post-credit scene. But the whole situation is, and Sarah, correct me, this ebony blade that he has passed down through family, all that sort of stuff. But when wielding it, the blade kind of has a mind of its own, and that mind is like made of pure violence, basically. So the blade typically will drive the wielder mad, and they're like usually like kind of like a berserker type fighter. And his whole thing is like he wields it to help people, So like he's technically going crazy while he wields it, but he's doing it for a good reason. And I think that's why on the box it says death is my reward, because there's like no way of getting out of it unless you get killed. So that's why also he's probably so hesitant to pick up the sword as well, because he knows the minute he grabs that thing, it's going to turn his life into probably a living hell.
Sarah and Alex, I think you'd be proud of me that at the name drop of the ebony blade in the middle of the film, when Thena picks up Excalibur, they say, "Is that the ebony blade?" I caught it immediately. I was super proud of myself.
There you go.
Sarah, what about Dane Whitman? What about Black Knight? And the man who's talking to him, if you don't know, has been confirmed by Chloe Zhao as the one and only Blade, played by Mahershala Ali. It's a big deal.
Yes, the one thing I will add to what Alex said is that I think that we are going to watch him have to maybe not fight for it, because he already has the ebony blade, but his uncle, you know, Cersei mentions his uncle, and in the comics his uncle is the evil Black Knight, but he has the ebony blade, so his uncle already passed it to him. So I'm not sure, but we're gonna watch him take on the mantle and earn it, which I think will be very interesting. But yeah, he and Blade in the comics are part of a British superhero team that I hope we get to see more of. But it's MI13, which is like MI6, but like superheroes and British. But there's, with that end credit scene, there's so much that they can do, and I'm so pumped about all of it.
Mark, I know you're excited about it. You're ready for Blade.
I'm ready for Blade. I said on an earlier podcast, I think I'm one of the only people in the entire world that thoroughly enjoyed the Blade trilogy, like through and through. I heard that there's a rumor that Wesley Snipes will be getting a cameo, which would be appropriate. Love Mahershala Ali. I think he's a fantastic actor. I didn't think that we were going to get Blade this early. So for me, when you revealed that to me, I did geek out a little bit to see that he's coming sooner rather than later to the MCU.
You don't announce it. You don't announce him at 2019 Comic-Con the way they did without dropping him in somewhere. I think he's going to show up in Moon Knight. That's my personal thought.
Yeah, it's exciting. I would really like. I mean, I like this this area of the Marvel universe in comics. I like that. It was always like whenever there was a video game too, and like they would go to the realm of Mephisto and hell. Like that was cool to me. I liked the vampires. I liked the horror. I like the horror stuff in the MCU. I'm going to be really curious as to how they're going to work that in, because internationally it may not land with certain parts of the world. That's an interesting discussion if we ever have it, to see if Phase 4 is going to be as globally popular. Because like demons and these kind of things don't do well in the Asiatic sphere. Like culturally, they're just like they're very like no. It's like a big no. But I am excited to see that Black Knight and Blade are going to be doing something. But again, this is what I said earlier. I finished this movie going, what is happening? And I think
I thought it was The Watcher. I didn't think it was Blade. I thought it was Jeffrey Wright in The Watcher.
But between this and Harry Styles, I was going, what is happening? Where are we like, where's the connective tissue? What the hell is happening? And I'm excited for it, but I have no idea what's happening at this point.
One last thing on the Ebony Blade, and we'll talk about that name you just dropped. The Ebony Blade was created by somebody within Dane Whitman's family and Merlin, correct? Merlin has, so I think if we're going to start blending real world tall tales and everything else, I think that's just really cool. Harry Styles is in the MCU. I knew there was going to be a new actor in the mid-credit scene. I avoided it for 2 weeks. And then I get a guy on my screen and I have no idea who the guy is. I couldn't pick Harry Styles out of a lineup. Now I can. He's in the MCU. But Alex, you were stoked beyond stoked to see Star Fox. And we finally have Patton Oswalt in the MCU proper as the voice of Pip the Troll.
Yeah, those Guardians kind of comics, that era of like the Infinity Gauntlet and all of that, is one of my favorites. And so, when we got to see some of those characters in the MCU, it was cool. But I was always like, in the Infinity Gauntlet, Pip the Troll's there with Adam Warlock, and they're teleporting people to safety, and Star Fox is trying to talk to his brother and talk him out of it. And we don't get to see any of that. And so the fact that they're now bringing that all in is so cool. And again, they did it with a bunch of little quick throwaway lines in there of call. We confirmed that he's an Eternal, that he's Thanos' brother. They don't confirm anything about his powers, but we do know his powers are they're kind of like mantises in terms of where he can kind of control emotions, typically in order to have people do whatever it is that he wants. But the thing with him is he's very hedonistic. That's his characteristic. So he's essentially Harry Styles. And the Chloe Zhao even confirmed that. She was saying something like she saw Harry Styles a while back, and she was like, he would be perfect Star Fox. And so I don't know if Sarah Finn, I'm sure she had her hand in the pot too, but it sounds like Chloe was the one who kind of picked him out. But I thought it was perfect. Pip was perfect. He was exactly like he was, his little drunken self. But I don't know, I was blown away. And I love getting to hear Makari say Thanos' brother. And I was like, yes.
When with the limited knowledge that I have of the comics, and Pip showing up, I would, especially with the timing of the Adam Warlock announcement that we got, I would have expected that to be Adam Warlock had I not known that there was some sort of other character. Me sitting here thinking like The Rock is going to show up. Like I didn't know who was going to show up, but I didn't expect to see a face that I didn't recognize. Sarah, what do you make of Star Fox and Pip? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm indifferent about Harry Styles. I avoided spoilers also, and then I answered a call from my aunt about 10 minutes before the movie, which I should not have done, and she managed to spoil it in like the first 2 minutes that we were talking.
Brutal.
The last minute spoiler.
So it wasn't a surprise, but it still kind of was a surprise. I'm looking forward to more of that character and learning more about, like how that ties into Thanos, or maybe it's not going to. I don't know, but yeah, it's exciting.
Maybe Star Fox coming out will at least get Nintendo to release Star Fox 64. All right. Well, thank you for sticking with us for over 90 minutes of this podcast, the Eternal Spoiler Review. Again, we have made a vow here at Earth's Mightiest Weirdos that the Monday after anything new, I'm sorry, Hawkeye, but on December 20th, Spider-Man is going to get the spotlight. That is going to be at least 2 hours long. Plan on that. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. But Mark, what is going on in this Diz Life land?
This week, John Hinson's taking us on a VIP tour. He booked a VIP tour through Walt Disney World, so he's going to tell us what it was like to live like the rich and famous.
Nice. Alex, comics and cinema?
Yeah, we've got our part 2 of the Hawkeye series by Matt Fraction and David Aja is going to be recording that here, I think, in the next week or so. So that should be out just in time for the show. Also looking to do an episode on Frankenstein. I believe it's Frankenstein's 90th anniversary. So I was going to do an episode on that. We did Dracula earlier this year. And then beyond that, obviously, we'll be covering those Marvel properties as well as things come out.
And if 90 minutes was not enough, you've got 90 minutes times at least 3 waiting in your comics and cinema podcast, listening to Alex and Sarah break down everything about Eternal. Sarah, is there anything you need to plug?
I started a side hustle earlier this year, buying, selling, and trading comics, all kinds of comics. I'm on Instagram at the Nerd Emporium.
Great follow, even if you don't know who's following you at the time. United We Fan this week, Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. We will have 3 guest judges. Mark will make the case for the Backstreet Boys. I will make the correct case for NSYNC. But until then, for all time.
Always.